Hello and welcome to this quick tip around HTX, specifically on this thing here. This is the MT12 from Radiomaster. It is designed for models that run on the ground, so boats, cars, trucks, whatever you fancy. Now, I've had a great question from this gentleman here. This is from John David. Says he's really enjoyed the videos. Thank you for that. It's very kind of you to say. And he has a question regarding the MT12. So you've come to the right place, and he wants to set it up so that he can have some lights coming on when he is reversing and some other lights coming on when he's going forward. So I'm guessing he's looking for kind of like a brake light or a reversing light or a main beam. And that's relatively easy to do. Now, there are lots of additional switches on this radio that you could potentially use to kind of turn those things on. However, what we can do is we can create something called logical switches. So as we pull the trigger, it will detect that, and we can use that then logical switch like we would a physical switch to turn something on or off. Similarly, when we push it forward for braking, that then can activate the brake lights or reverse lights. So let me show you how to do this. John, it's a really great question. Now, if I was doing this, ideally what you want are some kind of LEDs that are controlled via some kind of PWM switch. I really like these here from Menace RC. I use these in a lot of my models. They're very easy to wire up and they can be controlled directly from a PWM pulse, which is handy. Or you can get full-on car kits that you don't have to do this for from people like this, where you can just wire it all up and you can also get sounds and everything else. But we'll assume for the purposes of this video for you, John, that you're going to run something like a radio Menace RC radio controlled switch or something similar to switch your lights on and off. So what we need is, as we are pulling the trigger, we're going to get two logical switches coming on that we can use. So let's actually get into it. So what we're going to do, let's create a brand new model for this. So we'll go into the model select, we'll go down and we'll select an entry slot, hit enter and say create model. That's going to give us something to work with. And what we're going to do is we're going to page across and we're going to go right to the very end. See here, it's 712. We're going to go right to this thing called logical switches. Now, logical switches are incredibly powerful. We can use things like telemetry values, the position of other switches, all kinds of things to basically turn something that isn't a switch into a switch that we can use for programming. So let's create it. So we'll hit enter. So the function that we're going to want, there are lots of different functions that we can choose from. Most of them looks like something from your maths class when you're a kid. The one we'll initially go for when A is less than X, or when the throttle is less than the middle channel position. And what we'll do is, first of all, we'll say when V1, let me just move the throttle, it'll automatically detect it, makes that easy. Hit enter, and we'll keep it, I would go -2 or 3, just so that we have a little bit of wiggle room in the middle in case I'm accidentally pressing it gently with my finger, and we'll come out of that. So that is now a logical switch that's going to come on when I go into reverse. If I press forward, you can see it's going bold. That logical switch is now being activated. Now, we obviously want one for the other way, so we'll do the same thing. Logical switch 2, press and hold. We'll say the function is now when A is more than X, which looks like that. Again, we'll go down and we'll pull the throttle. This time I would say, let's give it a positive value of about 3 or 4. Again, just gives a little bit of dead band, and we'll come out of that. So now what we should see is logical switches 1 and 2 are not active. If I pull the trigger to go forward, logical switch 2 is on, and we can use that to turn the lights on. Logical switch 1 comes on. If I push the throttle forward, that's going to give me a reverse. So now we have those, we can actually use them just like we would any other switch on the radio. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back all the way up to outputs and mixes. Now the way I would do this next bit, there's lots of different ways you can do it, but I would make sure that these two channels are going to be at their most negative value. That's because the way it works on these radios, don't forget, is that it goes from -100 to +100, with 0 being the middle channel position. So ideally I'd want the two channels to be at -100 unless those switches are active. So let's do 5 and 6. So what we're going to do is, let's not bother about the name for the moment. We'll select the source as something called max. Now max is a really weird one because it doesn't actually relate to any of the controls. It's an independent thing. So we're going to set the max, and we're also then going to select the value to be -100. And that means that this channel is going to be at -100. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll press and hold enter there, and we'll copy that channel down onto the one below. So now we have channels 5 and 6 set at -100, and we can see that if I just come out all the way out of this and we look at the channels monitor, you can see channels 5 and 6 over here. You see there's my throttle on channel 1, steering is channel 2, and channels 5 and 6 are at -100. So how do we get them to change with those logical switches? Well, that's the last bit of the trick. What we're going to do is we are going to go into the model menu, and we're going to, this time we'll page backwards because you can actually roll all the way around, so we'll get back to the bits we were before. So that's where we were before, logical switches. Now we can do things with special functions. Now this is another incredibly powerful part of the radio. So we're going to pick a special function, and we'll say we'll pick logical switch 1. You can kind of pick them, all the different ones out of here, but we will find logical switch 1. There he is. Override channel 5, which is one of the ones that we've got set up, with a value, let's give it a nice positive value of full deflection, which is 100, or whichever you need for your switch. Make sure that you tick it at the end. We'll press and hold enter. We'll copy that down, and then what we'll do is we'll edit this so that it's now logical switch 2. And this time it's going to override channel 6. Okay, so now we have two logical switches that are going to override two channels that by default the radio is keeping at a low value. So what does that actually look like? Here we are. So there we go. We have our two channels there, 5 and 6 on the right hand side. As I pull the accelerator, we have one of them go high. That's going to activate the lights that you have connected on channel 6. Similarly, if I brake, the other one goes high, and that is going to activate your reversing or braking lights, or however you want that set up. So hopefully that answers it for you. Just a brief glimpse of the kind of power that these kind of things have. HTX is incredibly flexible and powerful, and most things can be done with a little bit of thought. But things like logical switches and special functions are two things that you don't tend to bump into on other models, but for things like this, they're worth their weight in gold. Thank you for watching the video. If you watch my videos and find them useful, then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot. If you really like what I'm doing here, you can become a Patreon and support the time I spend helping others and get access to lots of exclusive benefits. Link is in the video description. Remember that all the videos on the channel are organized into playlists, so you can easily use those playlists to find all the videos on a subject that you are interested in. Add Painless 360 to your searches on Google and YouTube, and it'll help you find my content for any particular topic. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy flying.